All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Triple Option Talk. Merry Christmas to all of you out there. This is the episode before Christmas. It's coming
Absolutely.
right around the corner, and it is also the beginning of the college football playoff. It is time for the bracket games to finally start happening. As we're recording this right now, Notre Dame and Indiana are in the middle of their game. We're keeping track of it, but we're going to get into all the rest of the game. So, boys, we ready to finally get into the playoffs that we have all been waiting for all season long?
Since day one, it's all been building up to this bracket right here. And, I think this is one that everybody's very excited about because this is, I think, really one of the first times since the playoff era has been a thing that fans haven't complained about the bracket, that people think the committee actually got it right. So I think, first 12-team playoff format, committee hit it on the money. I think this is a 12 to start the 12-team era. It's a very exciting format. I think the matchups are very intriguing too. And that's not to say that the 12-team format doesn't have any flaws, because it most certainly does. One aspect of the bracket that I don't think many people are a huge fan of is the first top four seed, or the top four conference winners getting the top four seeds and therefore getting a first round bye. I think what the college football playoff needs to adjust to is, instead of the best four conference winners getting the first round bye, it just needs to be the best four overall teams, regardless of where conference you're from. Because let's face it, I'm not trying to take anything away from Boise State and Arizona State, but they're nowhere close to being a top four team. I mean, I can name right now four teams that are better than both Boise State and Arizona State, and therefore those teams should deserve a first round bye. And what's the team that I'm thinking of? Ohio State. I think Ohio State, though they didn't make the Big Ten championship, though they lost to Michigan at the end of the year, I think Ohio State is still better than Boise State and Arizona State. And I think conference schedule is something that the 12-team, not conference schedule, but strength of schedule is something that the committee has to kind of induce more when it comes to their rankings. I think the right teams are in, they're just not in the right placements. That's my take on it. But we will dive more into that as the offseason progresses, because I'm sure we're going to see immediate changes to the bracket once the season officially wraps up.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a lot of things to be tinkered with, a lot of things to kind of move around until it gets even. This is, the debut of this format. This is the first time that we've seen it. I mean, a lot of people were skeptical when it went from the BCS era to like the first rendition of the playoffs.
Yep.
And now we're kind of getting this 12-team playoff. So it's going to continue to evolve, and hopefully they will fix the kinks rather than make more of them.
Yep.
But, that's only with just time to tell.
Right. And it's a second straight. you hate to see it.
Yeah. Stuff.
Missed out again.
Quick question before we dive into this. I want to jump all the way back to episode 1. We were originally starting.
Don't ask me about my bracket.
Who? Yeah, my bracket's like.
Yeah, my bracket was cooked. I had Oklahoma State and Ole Miss in, and not a single one did. Well, Ole Miss came pretty close.
Ole Miss was out on mine.
I think
was out on mine.
Me and Andrew both had Ole Miss in our bracket. You kept them out. I had Oklahoma State winning the Big 12, and they finished 4-7. If that tells you anything. Or 4-8, actually.
And I think we all had 4 State in our brackets, too.
Yep, we sure did.
So did half the nation, considering we started off the season ranked number 10. So I don't feel bad about it. I'm just disappointed.
That just shows you how unpredictable the sport of college football is. Because a lot of teams that you expect to be good, you expect to make the playoffs, you just never know how the season can turn out.
And you know what? I had Oregon missing the playoffs in my bracket as well. I had Ohio State winning the Big Ten and pushing Oregon out. So, yeah, very unpredictable.
Look at a team like Arizona State.
Yep.
They were projected to be dead last.
This was a team that they won one game. No, they won 3 games last year. They went 3-9 last year. And yeah, you're right, Jake. Predicted to finish dead last in the conference, and they are the team to not only win it but secure a first round bye.
Yeah. So, it's crazy to think, but here's kind of more so what I'm getting at, because I know a lot of our brackets are busted. We didn't have any as dumb as Desmond did a couple years ago.
Pittsburgh and A&M, that was hilarious.
That was rough. Desmond, we love you, but brother,
that was a stretch.
Calm down.
Who was your national champion?
Ohio State.
I think
Ohio State.
I think I had either Georgia or Ohio State. I think I had them two playing in the national championship, but I cannot remember. I think I had Ohio State too. I think I had Ohio State beating Georgia in the national championship. And of course, those dreams are still alive with Ohio State hosting Tennessee in the shoe tomorrow. Which, by the way, is a little backstory. I don't know if you realize, Jake, what's going to go down in Ohio State this tomorrow night, but there is a legitimate chance that home field advantage is not a thing.
It's not a legitimate chance. It's happening. It's too late.
So Tennessee fans have bought out 47% of the stadium's capacity because Ohio State somehow accidentally leaked the early access to tickets, and Tennessee fans found it first, and they got first dibs on the tickets.
So the game's literally going to be 50-50. It's going to be like a neutral site game.
In Ohio State Stadium. It's going to be ridiculous.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how I haven't heard about this, but if I'm Ohio State and I'm Ryan Day, I am.
And better yet, Tennessee fans have gotten together and they're going to try to space themselves out and make a Tennessee checker around the stadium. Can you imagine how ticked off Ohio State fans are about to be if they get this done?
The first round is supposed to be a huge, big advantage. The team with the higher seed in the first round is supposed to have a major advantage because it's not just a home college football playoff game where if you don't watch college football has the best atmospheres at any sport you'll ever watch. But this is a playoff home game. This is supposed to be a home atmosphere like none other. And not only is it good, we're not talking about just a lackluster atmosphere. We're talking about an atmosphere that's going to be 50% of the opposing team. And they're literally going to have their way with the fans, make a check around the stadium, and make it seem like a home game for Tennessee as much as possible.
Yep.
That's crazy. Well, hey, enough beating around the bush. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Let's start at the top. We're not going to talk about the Notre Dame Indiana game just in the fact that it's currently going. So our views are going to be a little swayed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
So let's just jump through that one. We'll for the people listening that want to hear about that game, come back next week and listen, and we'll talk about this very moment in time because the game is currently going as we're talking about this, and we're following it currently on our phones.
Yep.
So we just don't want to give anything away, or I will not give anything away. We don't want our opinions to be kind of swayed one way or the other.
But for those who don't know, the winner of this game will go on to play Georgia in the All-State Sugar Bowl. So regardless of who – well, actually, no. I was going to say regardless of who wins, they're going to have their hands full. But Georgia is a huge question mark with Gunnar Stockton playing instead of Carson Beck. Now, personally, I have a lot of faith in Gunnar Stockton, but he did look a little flustered in that Texas game. But I'm a huge believer in Kirby Smart, and I believe he's going to get Stockton in the best position possible to help Georgia succeed. But we won't know until the game happens.
I have a lot of faith.
Go ahead.
You got it.
All right, so what I was going to say is one of the key things that everyone's picking out on Gunnar Stockton is, well, he came in and on the first drive, he scored a touchdown. That's great. DJU did the same thing, and we all saw how that panned out.
You're right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong also.
Because we were just like that. I remember I was watching the opening drive, and that opening drive was just dominant.
We got the 2-point conversion. We started up 8-0.
I was like, man, we're going to beat the crap out of the first, 10 teams we see until we get to, the very end. And obviously that didn't happen. So in the fact, if you're the Georgia fan, and if you're Georgia in general, you're definitely a little bit skeptical about how you're going to have to play this game. Yep. And there's a lot of key factors, one of which that is the big elephant in the room, that Carson Beck will not be under center. And he is not going to be taking any snaps because of his injury. So now you're moving in what is to Gunnar Stockton. And it's going to see what his ability is going to be on the field in a high-pressured game. Now, he is getting to play in some familiar territory and hopefully get to go back to the bins if he can make it back that far.
Yeah.
But, and the other thing of it is, will Mike Bobo open up the playbook, or will he keep it just as shut and under lock and key as it was when Carson Beck was still there?
I hate to say it for all your Georgia fans watching, but I feel like without Carson Beck, we're about to see an even more conservative Mike Bobo. And I think it's due to the fact, mainly for the one interception that Gunnar Stockton had when it was third, and I can't remember how far the third down was, but they were backed into nearly their own 50. It was a very pivotal drive for Georgia because they did not want to get Texas the ball back with a chance to tie the game, which they ultimately did. But yet again, he decided to step back, roll outside the pocket, and try to make a hero throw and ended up forcing it into double coverage, which led into the interception. I think that's going to leave Mike Bobo feeding ETN and Nate Frazier, who has really developed their game on the ground as of late. I think at least for this first round, because it's going to be either Notre Dame or Indiana, though Indiana has the best run defense in college football statistically, even if the Hoosiers beat the Fighting Irish, I do think Mike Bobo's really going to try to take the 1-2 punch straight down their throats and try to execute a win that way.
I think I'm speaking for every Georgia fan when I say it's about Mike Bobo. That it's just that we don't understand his play calling at all and why he does it. Because I'm going to take just 2 games, for example, the Georgia and Tennessee game. We saw how sloppy that first quarter was. For Georgia, because they tried to just dominate the run game, and Tennessee was absolutely shutting it down. But then the moment Mike Bobo opened the passing game, Carson Beck continued to have the best game that he's ever had this season. Same with the Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech had their way with the Bulldogs the entire night because Georgia tried to dominate the run, and Georgia Tech's linebackers were shutting it down. It wasn't until midway through the third quarter that Mike Bobo really opened the pass game, and that led Georgia to come back and win the game in 8 overtimes. So Georgia fans are seeing this, but no matter what the outcome of every game is, Mike Bobo's always going to start the game run heavy, whether it works, whether it doesn't. And it's just stressful. He makes the game so much more stressful than it has to be because I think it'll be a horrible idea for him to go run heavy with a player like Gunnar Stockton behind center because eventually, especially in the playoffs, when you're playing the best team in the country, you're going to get a point to the game where he has to throw the ball, and you don't want Gunnar Stockton to be in that spot when he's not ready, when he's not trained, when he's not mentally prepared. So you have to let him start right out the gates. That way he's ready when the game becomes more critical. But Mike Bobo is going to Mike Bobo.
Yeah. I think especially now with Carson Beck not going to be taking any snaps in this game, this is an opportunity to do one of 2 things. This is your opportunity to kind of roll with the same game plan and kind of adapt into what Gunnar Stockton has and what he can do. Or you just throw everything at everything that whoever you're going to play, whether that's Indiana, whether that's Notre Dame, throw everything down about the kitchen sink and just see what falls and see what happens. But now that we know that Carson Beck is out, Notre Dame or Indiana, whoever wins and moves on to play Georgia, your chances and your odds just got a lot better knowing that he's not going to be there. And yet ETN is going to run holes in his shoes, probably with the amount that they're going to use them. I would imagine see a lot of checkdowns, a lot of screens, a lot of wildcats.
Definitely screens. Yeah.
Definitely just something to keep the ball probably away from that mid to long, length for Gunnar Stockton to kind of screw this thing up and maybe coast your way into the Orange Bowl and then kind of let it go. Because at that point, you got nothing else you can really do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's what it looks like is going to happen with this next game. Anything else we want to say on that one or move on up to the next one?
Why? To the you talk about a run-heavy game. I think the noon kickoff tomorrow between SMU and Penn State in Happy Valley. I hate that they're having a whiteout at noon because whiteouts are so much more exciting when it's a night game. But I understand it because Clemson and Texas and Ohio State and Tennessee are the more intriguing matchups. So I understand it. But nonetheless, these are two programs that, ironically enough, are kind of facing the same amount of pressure. You have a James Franklin-led Penn State team who, though regular season-wise, James Franklin has been one of the more successful coaches in Nittany Lion history as of late, his postseason success is lacking, and the clock is really ticking.
Well, he has no postseason success.
My point exactly. And this is his chance to really get the Nittany Lions name submitted in the college football playoff history books. And James Franklin, this is a long time coming. He has built a really strong foundation with this program, but no accolades to show for it. And with Allard coming back next year, you really have a chance to establish his confidence and his leadership role with some postseason success experience, and it all starts with SMU. But the reason why I want to highlight the run game, because while we're talking about Allard and James Franklin's Penn State Nittany Lions, their dynamic duo of junior running backs, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, is going to give SMU's rush defense a run for their money. No pun intended. These are two guys that the Big Ten, I think, really prides himself in stacking the defensive line. You got Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana with the statistical best run defense in the nation. This is a hard conference to establish a run game on, but Penn State has done that with two junior running backs who have absolutely – I really like to compare it to a Bijan and Algier situation in Atlanta. You got Katron Allen, who's the more elusive back.
We're Falcons fans. Shocker.
Yeah, in case you couldn't tell. But he's got the speed and the elusiveness to get by linebackers and cut outside on counter plays and establish runs after taking a hit. Then you got Nicholas Singleton, who's your straight gridiron power back that can fight for 5 or 6 yards just by tugging his neck down and pushing it through his feet. But then look at SMU's Brashaw Smith, which to me is one of the most exciting running backs to watch in college football. Why? Because not only is he stout on the run game, he is one of the best receiving backs in college football. So these are two teams that heavily rely on the guys in the backfield, and I think because of that, you're going to see a high-scoring game, not from your quarterbacks, but from the run game itself. And I think it's a lost talent in college football who's really because you see a lot more dual-threat quarterbacks in the game nowadays. But these are two teams who get down to the basics, get the run games established first. I'm excited for this matchup. I do have SMU pulling off the upset, mainly with my same theory that I took with the Indiana Notre Dame pick because of the lack of experience James Franklin has and because this SMU offense is insanely quick.
Yeah. No, I think this is going to be a great game. I think this is going to be good leather helmet kind of gritty football.
Love it.
I'm like you. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of balls thrown in the air. Everything's going to pretty much stay on the run. And what's interesting about this is you are going to, whoever wins, SMU or Penn State, you are not only going to move from one very heavy running game, but when you advance, you're going to run into the heaviest run influenced team in all of college football because the
guy who should have won the Heisman,
the guy that was supposed to win,
let him know, Jake,
winner of the Heisman Trophy Award, not some two-sided offensive defensive that didn't break any records in either position. I don't care what anyone says. Ashton Jeanty should have won the Heisman Trophy without a doubt, not even a question. I can't believe we're even having this conversation. But
it's a popularity contest.
It is 100% a popularity contest. If you don't believe that, you don't watch football. But
Amen.
So, and I think in the same way that I believe in Boise State, I believe in Ashton Jeanty, but they're definitely playing different teams than everybody else is. So how is this going to stack up to when you play either Penn State or SMU? Both notorious to having good seasons and having good defenses and having good offenses. I'm not saying Boise State doesn't have that, but I just don't think it is at the same scale as what it is in the Big 10, 12, SEC,
right.
ACC.
Right.
So there's a lot riding on this game because I do believe that if Penn State finally wants to scratch their first little mark into playoff wins and they want to kind of complete their resume of doing stuff in the postseason, this is the time to do it. If you can knock off SMU, there's a good chance you're going to knock off Boise State. And the next thing you know, you look up and you're in the semifinals. So there is a real chance, especially if Georgia gets knocked off.
And I will say this, and I mentioned this last episode about SMU, but I think what happened during that SMU and Clemson game might be best case scenario for SMU. What I'm talking about is because you watch that first half and Clemson absolutely dominated that entire first half. SMU not only didn't have an answer offensively, especially running the ball with the three-headed horse they have in the backfield, led by Brashard Smith, but defensively, they were getting picked apart by Clay Cullen and Phil Maffa. But you look what happened the second half. SMU got themselves in a position that they were playing with nothing to lose, even though they had a lot to lose. And what happened was they expanded. Now, Kevin Jennings is a guy that has over 3,000 passing on the year. He is no stranger to throwing the ball. But we have never seen him throwing the ball like he did in that second half of the Clemson game. And he unlocked a new version of himself that I think is what is a key that's going to play a key factor for SMU tomorrow against Penn State. And what I mean is, like y'all said, I expect it's going to be high scoring, especially run heavy. But if we know anything about Penn State's defense is that their major strength defensively is stopping the run, and their biggest weakness is the secondary. You look at their previous matchups, especially against Minnesota and Oregon, they got picked apart through the air. And I think now Jennings has the mindset, and SMU staff has a mindset that that Jennings has every ability to tag the defense through the air as SMU does attacking through the run. So I expect, yes, that SMU has by far the best backfield in the ACC. So it would be idiotic to think they're going to shy away from that against Penn State. But don't be surprised if they open the pass game a lot more than usual and hit Penn State in their softest spot, because I mean, look, Penn State's offense played fantastic against Oregon, but they gave up 45 points, 4 touchdowns through the air. Minnesota, they should have lost that game because they got picked apart through the air. So I think if SMU wants to beat Penn State, they have to pick them apart through the air. So expect Jennings to have a monster game if SMU survives this one. But then again, it's a toss-up to me. I don't know. It's a toss-up. I can see it's going any way. But, yeah, Jennings is going to have a big game if FCU wants to win. And I do want to sorry, Jake.
Nope, go ahead.
I was going to say I do want to highlight one player for Penn State that we haven't talked about, and that is your 2024 John Mackey Award winner, who goes to the best tight end in the nation, Tyler Warren. He had 88 receptions for 1,000 yards, which is a Big Ten record for any tight ends, with 6 touchdowns. And I think once Drew Aller does get his arm warmed up, that is going to be his number one target, especially against an SMU defense who is going to be so focused on Penn State's backfield. But it is also important to note that the Mustangs have won 10 straight road games, which is the second longest active streak in the FBS behind Texas. But we all know Happy Valley is a different beast.
Yep. So within that, let's go on and make our picks. Who do we think?
I already made my picks. I'm taking the ponies in the upset win. As much as I want to say SMU, I expect this to be a high-scoring, close game. But I think despite what people say about James Franklin, he has this Penn State team more prepared than he's had in recent years. I think Drew Aller is going to solidify himself as a guy that can lead the Nittany Lions to a national championship, if not this year, then next. But I do think Penn State survives in a close, high-scoring affair.
Yeah, I think it's time for James Franklin to finally make his name in what is the playoffs, postseason, whatever you want to call it. He's run dry in that. I think he's hungry for that. He needs it, and he's going to get it. He's going to end up knocking off SMU, and hopefully he's going to carry it on into the next round. They're going to play in the Fiesta Bowl against Boise State, and then we're going to see how the chips fall in that matter.
Yep.
But to move on into a game that we were just currently talking about.
Yep.
Actually, you know what? We're going to jump over that one. Because I think, and Yuck, we can totally disagree on this, and we can talk about this game. I think this is going to be the game that matters more than the Clemson-Texas.
Ohio State, Tennessee?
I think so.
Because they're playing – I mean, winners got to play Oregon, who, though I don't think there is
let's talk about it.
Team in the country –
yeah, forget it. We'll just talk about it. Tennessee, Ohio State. Is it a home game? Who freaking
Apparently
knows?
not. Apparently not.
It's a neutral site for all we know.
We're all going to find out at 8 o'clock unless you are going to the game when we're going to turn on our TVs. And it is going to be, I hope it is as good in my head as I think it's going to be. Because I would love to turn on my TV and I see the outside of the shoe. And I'm like, oh, here we are. We're in Ohio State. Holy crap, there's a lot of orange here.
They're going to do that little aerial bird's eye view.
Yes,
50%
that's exactly what
orange,
in my head.
50% red. Oh, it's going to be crazy.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Oh, it's going to be ridiculous. I
But
can't wait.
here's one thing that matters. Here's one thing that doesn't. Home field advantage absolutely matters.
Yes.
You know what the difference is about having home field advantage? Is if your team can't operate during home field advantage or even in a neutral zone. And the person I'm really talking about is in the quarterback ability of the Tennessee Volunteers. Is Nico going to be reliable, or is he going to be as shaky as he has been this entire season?
I think it's important to note that this game's going to be sub 20 degrees. I think 27 degrees is expected during kickoff time. Now, Tennessee, they're in the mountains, so it does get pretty cold up here. But this Ohio team knows cold weather like nobody else. So I'm interested to see how much that plays a factor. And, because it's a Southern team going to a place like Ohio that knows cold weather. So I'm interested to see how that affects Nico. But, Jake, you said it. Nico is as inconsistent gets. And I actually don't know what to make of this. Tennessee and Ohio State, I think both have very lackluster offenses. Tennessee is the Ohio State of the SEC. But I think what makes a difference is Ohio State, hands down, has the best defense in the country. And I think that's going to be the key difference maker in this game. Secondary-wise, though Ohio State secondary does cause a lot of penalties. When they're not getting flags thrown, they are absolutely locked down, strapped down, best corners, best safeties in the nation. And I think that's going to match up very well against
the best in the nation. Sorry.
And I think that's going to match up very well against a Nico, not going to pronounce his last name, that is prone to making mistakes, especially when he's pressured. So for that reason alone, I think Ohio State's going to have their way with Tennessee and win by double digits.
Now, here's another thing that I mentioned about Nico, and he struggles. You talked about how good the Ohio State secondary is when they're not getting penalized for holding or pass interference calls. But Nico struggles against good defenses. You look at his numbers, and they give you a little twinkle of the eye, like, oh, he might just mess around and win the Heisman next year because his numbers look that statistically sound. But if you look deeper into it and flip the next page, 80% of his touchdowns come against sub-tier SEC
The first
teams.
half of the season before they hopped in the SEC is when he was at his best.
When you take a look at his defensive numbers against stout SEC defenses like Georgia, like Alabama, his numbers flop like any mid-tier SEC quarterback.
He had his worst performance against an Arkansas team. Though it was in Arkansas, they proved to be lackluster. But what happened? Arkansas pressured Nico, and he made a lot of mistakes.
And he's going up against a secondary that's been stout since Ryan Day's taken control after Urban Meyer. But you look at Ryan Day's situation here, and this is something that really needs to be closely evaluated because he's been around since post Urban Meyer, and the chips haven't fallen on the table. I mean,
He's on the forever hot seat. He's on the eternal hot seat. I feel so bad for that guy because every season, doesn't matter if he goes undefeated or not, kid's on the hot seat.
And look, people are going to take a look at this situation and be like, well, Ohio State, they've made the national championship back in COVID year. They're in and out of the playoffs every so often. Like, he's getting the success that he wants in the Big Ten when you look at his conference record. But here's something that matters, and I don't care if you disagree with me because wake up, guys, it does matter. When your momentum, when your dominance is getting halted by your biggest rival, screw it, the biggest rival in college football for 4 years in a row, it matters. This is something that I don't care about what your record is against any other Big Ten opponent. When your first round bye and your season is getting halted by the same team for the past 4 years, it matters. And I genuinely believe with exactly what Stephen A. Smith said this morning.
Yep.
If Ohio State loses this game, Ryan Day has to be fired. And for those who don't know, if it were up to me, Ryan Day would have been fired after that 2020 national championship. And here's why. I don't care that he got there. I mean, yes, they got blown out. I don't care what the situation is. There is an assistant for Ohio State that spoke out and said during the halftime of that game, Ryan Day did not address his players. Not a word was spoken to any of his players. Instead, he went into the coach's office and started throwing the blame on all the other coaches. So that's the number one sign right there that you've got a guy who's great at recruiting, who's great at executing a great game plan, but he is not good at taking accountability. And what other coach that cannot take accountability falls under that category? Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly, the exact same.
Bill Fisher at A&M.
Brian Kelly, the exact same thing as Ryan Day. He's a great recruiter. He has great regular season success. He's gotten Notre Dame to the national championship, but no accolades to show for it because he can't make the adjustments when it matters.
As you can tell, we're huge Brian Kelly fans in this podcast. We love the guy.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, dude, my skin's crawling at the name Brian Kelly.
I can't stand that guy. It is like, I don't care what team he's on. I don't care. Really don't. I hope he loses every game from this moment forward. I don't wish ill on anybody except Brian Kelly.
That's the exception. Yes.
Forget that guy.
But, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, as a head coach, you have to – I'll put this – I think we lost Jake.
It's just buffering.
Am I back?
Oh, we're back. We're back. Hey.
Just a little buffer. But, I'll put this in just to put in perspective. As a head coach, you have to win the hearts of your fan base. And heading into the playoffs, there was a petition going around Ohio State, around Ohio State's campus, trying to petition for Urban Meyer to take over a head coach heading into the playoffs. That's how bad they don't want Ryan Day coaching Ohio State heading into the playoffs. That is how bad they don't have any trust in this guy.
And it's interesting because, like, Dylan Sampson is, to me, another running – we talked a lot about running backs this episode, but Dylan Sampson is, to me, a running back that I think can draw the attention off Nico because of the season he's had, which would give Nico the opportunity to, utilize quick slants and inside cross to get these quick throws off, gain momentum, and slowly work their way down the field. But for the offensive side of the ball for the Buckeyes, Will Howard, to me, is coming off 2 straight questionable weeks, especially in that rivalry game against Michigan. That game was carried by the defense, and Will Howard had 2 costly interceptions backed up in their own territory that ultimately gave Michigan the win at the end of the day. This is something that he's got to eliminate now. He's had a week to fix himself, to get because they missed the Big Ten championship, get his rhythm back through the air. Because if he turns the ball over and in their own territory against a Tennessee offense that can gain momentum through Nico and Dylan Sampson, that's going to be the recipe for success. I don't care how good your defense is. If you're constantly pointing their backs against the wall in enemy territory every single time because of dumb interceptions, it's going to lose you any football game. I don't care who you are. And I love Will Howard. I've loved Will Howard since he was at Kansas State. But you can't win with this kind of production out of him.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's going to be a couple of definitely key aspects that are going to win this game. I think the first off, for Tennessee's sake, things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to dominate in the offensive line that you have. Make sure that nobody's getting to your quarterback. Give him time, because when he does have time and he can kind of stay in the pocket for a second, or at least he has the ability to kind of roll out to the right or to the left, he creates more opportunities to make bigger plays. So that is going to be one of the biggest keys that you're going to have if you're Tennessee. Now, Ohio State, one of the keys that you're going to need is to have the best secondary in the nation for the rest of the season. And Ryan Day being in the hot seat forever, if I were Ryan Day, here's what I would do.
Okay.
Let's say I'm Ryan Day. Okay?
Let's hear it. Okay, you're Ryan Day. I'm picturing you now.
Okay. We beat Tennessee. We move on. Now we're in the Rose Bowl. We're playing Oregon and Pasadena. I know this is looking ahead and this is kind of making my pick, but I'll make my state. I'll speak my case when we get to it next week. I don't think Ohio State loses to Oregon twice. It's not like the game was a blowout. It was a
No,
very
no.
close game, and I truthfully believe if there were 3 minutes left on the clock or even 30 seconds left on the clock,
they would. Ohio State would have won.
I think Ohio State would end up winning that game. And
You're
I
probably
think
right.
they learn from their mistakes. Oregon has been waiting for an opportunity to mess up, and this may be their chance. Ohio State can absolutely take care of Oregon as long as they play the game that they played the first time but have an extra minute.
Right.
So, in that case, I think Ohio State can do it. If Ohio State beats Oregon, then you're going to look at either the winner of Arizona State or Clemson and Texas, which is going to be the next game we're going to talk about. And I think both of those games are winnable. So now you're looking at playing in the national championship against whoever. Andrew and I, we can agree on this because we picked Ohio State to win the national championship. I think this is going to be the best recipe for Ohio State to make it to the national championship and win.
Yes.
So,
Oregon's their biggest juggernaut by far.
100%. And I think that goes for anybody that's going to have to play him regardless of what the order of the bracket was in.
Very true.
You got to beat Oregon. You got to beat the top dog, and unfortunately that's where they're at right now. But I don't think Ohio State loses twice.
Well, what a matchup that would be, because that's the best offense in college football in Oregon versus the best defense in college football in Ohio State. And not only
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I forgot something. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I was just saying, not only is Oregon statistically do they, I guess, have the most complete offense in college football, but just how they played over the last couple of games, that passing game under Dylan Gabriel has just become absolutely unstoppable. And I think even with the best defense in the nation, Oregon is not a team you want to face.
No.
100%.
No, 100% not. I forgot. I'm Ryan Day. I didn't.
Oh
finish
yeah,
my Ryan Day.
yeah.
Sorry, Ryan.
Sorry.
We cut Ryan Day off.
Here's what happens. We beat Tennessee. We go to Pasadena. We beat Oregon. We give them a flower and say, "Get the heck out of here. We'll see you next season."
Okay.
Then we move on, and whoever we're going to play in the national championship, we're going to beat them. We're the national champs.
So you're full steam ahead on this Ohio State pick. Okay.
Full steam ahead. Ohio State, national champions. Ryan Day. We did it. You're welcome. Everyone can shut up now. And then the next day, here's my letter of resignation. Give it in, crumble it up, shove it up everybody's butt that has been trying to get you out, and just be happy that you get to walk out of there a national champion. And then as soon as you leave and whatever Timbuktu Joe Blow walks in your job and doesn't do it, everyone's going to go, kind of miss Ryan Day right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think if you're Ryan Day, you need to win the Natty. Here's my letter. I'll take my money and then ride off into the sunset and just watch the implosion of what is Ohio State next season.
Okay.
I mean, until it backfires and the new guy comes in and just wins like 3 straight natties.
Imagine if Kalen DeBoer goes from Alabama to Ohio State and does the same thing.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I can't believe this is wildly off topic, but I was talking about this the other day. I can't believe how bad of a job Kalen DeBoer has done in Tuscaloosa.
Because it's the atmosphere. Because you see the Alabama is just becoming another college football team. They're not. Well, what's what I'm trying to say? They're not the standard of what it means to be a non-team in college football anymore. And you saw it in multiple instances this year. I think first and foremost, just how the players react to anything, especially in that Vanderbilt game when we had that all-time crash out when the Vanderbilt was just trying to kneel the ball and the Alabama player kept kicking the ball down the field, just being petty because they lost the game. And then even after the Tennessee game, when players just refused to do interviews, they walked out of the field, they were pointing fingers at each other. Kalen DeBoer has just lost control of this team, and this is a standard. This is an atmosphere. This is a personality issue that you would have never seen under Nick Saban, because Nick Saban knew how to run a tight ship. Kalen DeBoer does not, and because of that, Bama is no longer looked at as the standard of what it means to be a classy, dominant team in college football.
Yeah.
And I think as long as Nick Saban's not there anymore, I don't care if it's DeBoer, I don't care if it's anyone else. As long as Nick Saban's not there, Bama will never be the same, because players don't look at Bama anymore and go, oh, this is a team I can go to, and this coaching staff can bring the best version out of myself. Now Bama's just another team that might make the playoffs. Might win the SEC championship, but I mean, it's just the atmosphere there. It's kind of I don't want to say sad because I'm having a great time watching Bama suck, but it feels weird seeing this new atmosphere, this new persona at Bama because we would have never thought we'd see the day where Bama looks like this.
I'll tell you what's got Bama shaking their boots in terms of recruiting because of how unappetizing Alabama's grown this past year alone is you got Bill Belichick, who was just signed to North Carolina. North Carolina is a program that's only eye candy when it comes to basketball.
Ever since Belichick signed the paper to be head coach, they have dominated the transfer portal.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in, stealing my game notes.
Steal my point here, brother.
But I mean, yeah, you've had your talking point. Let me have mine.
Excuse me.
Now, Bill Belichick, like Chase just said, has right off the rip gotten the attention of so many high school recruits.
And if you did, I'm joking.
Because
I was just about to go.
Dadgum. I was knocked through my watch. I threw my wad, but I didn't throw it to him hard. It sounded like I just smacked him against that. Sorry, I
promised a picture at him. So
but no, what is in your wallet? To be fair, I have a bunch of expired gift cards in my wallet. To be fair, so I guess it did have a lot of weight to it. But
I can't throw gift cards away. I don't care if it has 10 cents or $10. I can't throw it away.
This is so random. Do you still have your Blockbuster card?
Yes.
I would hold on to that with dear life. That's insane. It's gonna be worth something one day. That's awesome.
I used to love going to Blockbuster when I was a kid. It was like the best thing ever,
dude.
Like going and like getting like the VHS tape of like whatever. I don't know. I think I was watching like Scooby Doo or something when I was like, Blockbuster age or whatever. But it was so much fun. And I remember there was a game that Dad continuously led me to get, which was so something I should not have been playing when I was a kid. It was like, what was it called? It was like Def Jam something. And it's basically, I'm not even joking, this is a real game. You can look it up. It is rappers just fighting each other. Like, you could be like Snoop Dogg versus like Dr. Dre or like Tupac. I'm not joking. It is a real game. And it was so bad for a kid, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Honestly didn't even know you can rate games at Blockbuster.
Yeah, we did it before. Also,
I feel like Redbox is like something I remember more than Blockbuster.
I remember when Redbox was cool.
Yeah, Redbox. Oh, here it is. I found it.
Oh god,
it's called Def Jam Icon. It was a rated M game, and my dad got it for me.
Way to go, Dad! There you go. Shout out to Dad if you're watching.
Freaking D-backs come knock on our door Christmas Day. Be like, hey, is your dad home?
Dad, he never heard of that. What kind of? How do you even get that idea conjured up?
He was a man of the people.
I don't know who. It's an EA game. Does that surprise anybody?
EA.
Yeah, it is an electronic arts game. Like the makers of Madden made rappers fighting each other.
Yeah, that was some interesting times.
That doesn't surprise me. Now it makes sense.
I don't even know what I was talking about at Bill Belichick. Basically, the point I was trying to get at was that you got Bill Belichick, the 6-time Super Bowl champ, who is strategically taking guys like Tom Brady, drafted out of the 6th round, and made him the greatest quarterback of all time. That is where these top recruits are going to play for. And then on the flip side, and, of course, you've always got Georgia in the front runner of any recruiting category in the SEC. But there's so many different destinations now that just look much more appetizing. And then, of course, with all the NIL money, I want to include us in that conversation, Jake.
You can.
I will say.
We're getting in that conversation.
We're
almost there.
We're in the top 25 in terms of 2025 recruiting.
Minderville took a Jordan Travis who got booed off the field at Louisville and turned him into a Heisman candidate quarterback. You can absolutely include.
I really got to get my point out because I cannot finish my thought. But basically, what I'm trying to say is this is what I lost my train of thought and I got it now. You've got Clemson, Dabo Swinney himself, who has for years refused to even glance at the transfer portal. You've got Dabo. Well, not anymore. He has dabbled his feet in the transfer portal, and Clemson got their very first transfer not even a week ago. Mm-hmm. So with Dabo Swinney finally getting involved in that mess, Bama's going to have to find a lot more attraction because other than cousin kissers, what do you got going for you in Tuscaloosa? Well, I mean, let's be real. I mean, like, Roll Tide Willie. Roll Tide Willie. But I do want to hop into this Clemson and Texas game because for me, this is the most intriguing quarterback battle in the first round of the playoffs. And it dates back to Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers in their high school days. For those who don't know, this is not the first time these two quarterbacks have faced off. They faced off in the 6A state championship back in January of 21 when they were both seniors in high school. Now, for those who don't know how big of a deal high school football is.
Seniors in high school in 2021.
Indeed, they were.
Yeah.
It really puts in perspective, like, how old you really get and how much you really care about teenagers, like, playing football, and like it means a lot to you. But like, I'll be pissed every single time Florida State loses. I don't care if it's like a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah,
like,
they're young. They're young.
They're young, and I don't care. Figure the frick out. I want to win.
For those who don't know how big of a deal high school football is in Texas, they packed out. They packed out AT&T Stadium for this game, for this state championship. Now, Quinn Ewers. It's ridiculous. I mean, we're talking about a stadium that sits almost 100,000, and
Temple would have done the same.
I don't even go to Thomasville.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think Quinn Ewers did get the upper edge in the state championship. But yeah, so these are two quarterbacks that have history in the making, and they are meeting again in the same state that they met the last time. So this game's got a lot of history to it. Now, they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. Texas, Quinn Ewers is coming off a tough overtime loss in the SEC championship, their first year in the conference. Clemson is coming off a very scrappy win against SMU, who almost got their first win in the conference. And for those who don't know, this is the kind of guy that Cade Klubnik is. So he quite literally threw that game away against South Carolina on rivalry week when they had that game locked in their hands. What did he do afterwards? He sat in the car in the parking lot for 2 straight hours, did not move a muscle for 2 hours, sat in his car thinking about the future of Clemson football and how they're going to have to get in the playoffs, and just a complete mindset shift. And I think we saw a great version of Klubnik in the ACC championship game. And we've seen Texas, rise to the ranks and then get humbled by teams like Georgia. Not really putting Clemson on the same pedestal at Georgia, but they can compete at a high level at the end of the day. And then you got Phil Mafia in the backfield, who's rushed for 1,200 rush yards against some of the toughest run defenses in the nation, such as Georgia at the start of the year. Though Clemson got destroyed, Phil Mafia had a wonderful game on the ground. And then, but I think Phil Mafia, though I was kind of hyping up the quarterback battle, Phil Mafia might have to be the main point of emphasis for Dabo's rush offensive attack, because cornerbacks Jade Barron, Michael Taffy, and Andrew Makuba, I think is how you say that name, for Texas
Makuba.
They're 3 of the best ball trackers in not even the SEC, but college football as a whole. Might take a little bit away from Cade Klubnik's game. So Phil Mafia, I think, is actually going to be an interesting aspect in this game overall. To me, this game is just – this is to me, I know you are talking about, I think Ohio State and Tennessee is the biggest toss-up. I think
this is the biggest toss-up.
I think Texas and Clemson is the biggest coin flip in the first round of the playoffs. I don't know who to side with in this game now. I just think it's I think it's interesting. You got Chase.
I am actually pretty confident in Clemson taking down the Longhorns. Now, you look at Texas, and statistically, they have the best running defense in all of college football, and that is bad. That looks like bad news to Clemson when with Phil Mafah, who's, like you said, has 1,200 rushing yards. I think he has about 10 touchdowns. He's been a major factor for his Tigers offense, but it's going to be a tough time for him when they're facing a Texas defense who has been fantastic stopping the run all season long. What scares me the most about this Texas team is their inconsistency on offense and how lackluster they are in the red zone. Texas is 91st in all of college football in red zone efficiency, and you saw it really bad against their game before the SEC championship against Texas A&M when they had 2 costly turnovers in the red zone, which set up A&M perfectly to win the game, though they did it. One of those being a 97-yard pick six that put A&M right back in the game. You saw it against Georgia, a turnover right outside the red zone. Missed field goals all season long by Brent Auburn himself. Texas in the red zone is not scary. They are not terrifying. And it's not bad play calling in the red zone. It's just dumb mental mistakes, especially when Quinn Ewers gets pressured. He is prone to making mistakes. Now, this Clemson defense has been stout all season long, especially towards the end of the season. They have some of the best linebackers in all college football that are fantastic at shutting down the middle of the field, and their outside linebackers are sufficient in getting to the quarterback. That could be bad news for Quinn Ewers and this Texas offense, and that alone is what scares me. I've never had faith in this Texas offense, and I have never had faith in them winning big games. A&M, though that was a big game, it was a very rocky game. They lost to Georgia twice, basically for the same reasons, a lack of red zone efficiency. And I think when they meet a team again like Clemson, who's red hot defensively, a player like Cade Klubnik, who could be a Heisman candidate next year, I don't care that it's in the heart of Texas. Everything is bigger in Texas, so that L is going to be bigger than Longhorn Stink, and I think, no doubt in my mind, Clemson is advancing.
Now, did you hear that, Chase? That was complete silence, while you were talking, We're respecting, personal, But yeah, Chase, I can tell you're very passionate about this Tigers team, and
I'm confident.
I think you have
like
right
Kirk
to be.
Cinetti. Look me up. I'm never wrong.
Well, Kirk Cinetti, you can look up.
I thought I was
this
wrong
fat
once.
L.
I was
You
mistaken.
can look up this fat.
I said I thought I was wrong once.
But you were
I was
mistaken. Anyways, whatever that means. But
That was hard, Jim.
I do have to say, I want to see how Texas involves Arch Manning in this game, because Steve Sarkisian, first of all, you talk about coaches who have nightmares when it comes to postseason. That's Steve Sarkisian for you. But anyways, because we've seen over the last few weeks, Texas, especially in that Texas A&M game, get Arch Manning more involved. And with Cade Klubnik being the dual threat guy that he is, I wonder if they want to kind of counter his dual threat abilities with dual threat abilities of their own, which are all found in Arch Manning. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Steve Sarkisian game plans that all together.
He's kind of become what Taysom Hill is at New Orleans.
Yeah.
Though he's a backup, he actually does serve a major role.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see a lot of Arch Manning in this game, for being honest. And the only reason being is the fact with Ewers still dealing with a high ankle sprain. You can't risk losing 2 quarterbacks.
That's true.
In one game, especially with one of them already being hurt. So I think
That's true.
Arch is going to be on the sidelines. He's going to be ready to step into the game if they need him, but they're going to get every ounce of football they can get out of Quinn Ewers until he just can't do it anymore, and then that's where Arch is going to step in. So don't expect it. I wouldn't expect any Wildcats or anything crazy like that. I think
No.
I think Arch is going to just hang out on the sidelines, kind of enjoy the game.
Get ready for next year.
And, kind of get ready to take over the ship next year.
And
but here's the one and only thing I'm going to say about Texas.
Sure.
We'll move on because I've had this conversation with a couple people before, and I didn't realize this at the time. Now, if you look back at the beginning of the college football season, as if you look at their schedule, here's a question for both of you. At the beginning of the season, not right now, at the beginning of the season, how many top 25 teams did Texas play?
Just Georgia.
No.
No.
Well, yeah, I guess A&M. Like Georgia and A&M, and I think
That's it. That's quite literally it.
That's it.
Yep.
That's the only two
Yep.
teams that they played. They were ranked. And I don't even know if
And
Texas
they're
A&M
one-
was ranked at the time when they were playing them. Or no, they were.
They
They
were.
were.
And those were Texas' two worst games. Was Georgia and A&M. That's when they looked the worst. Their two hardest games, which is
Yes.
another reason I don't have faith in. And the SEC
Agreed.
championship. Those were the three worst games that they're one offensively for sure. So that is a big reason why I don't have faith with Texas against Clemson.
They're 1-3
Yeah.
against top 25 teams. That's a very good point. And another thing that we forgot to mention was top star receiver Isaiah Bond for Texas, who got hurt in that third quarter of the SEC championship, is likely to not be playing in this game against Clemson. So that's already one air raid threat taken away for Quinn Ewers'
Yep.
game. Already going to have to make adjustments, and I'm sure they've been game planning about it over the week. But yeah, it's been tough blows nonetheless for Texas when it comes to these ranked matchups. And we'll see if the bad bug bites them again tomorrow afternoon.
Hopefully the injury bug will stay away from this team. We've had too many injuries this season, whether it's the NFL
Way
or
too
college
many.
football.
Yeah.
It's just been way too
Absolutely.
many. So if you're Isaiah Bond, hopefully you can get past this first game and you can rest up now, and then you'll get a little bit of break before you get to go play the Sun Devils.
Assuming that they win.
Assuming that they win. And Clemson, you kind of have everything you can want right now. You got an injured quarterback and a top receiver out. So take advantage of this, and we'll see what the matchup is going to look like. But
Absolutely.
that's round one. We got round one in the books. I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you. Try to time it.
Good time, Rez. We're about to end. But
Oh, that hurt.
I didn't feel good.
I saw like
Um,
veins out of your neck.
Didn't feel good.
you must have been holding that thing in for a minute.
Sam's, and you're like, can we end the episode, please?
It's like during COVID year, like when you're around people and you feel yourself about to cough and you're like, oh no.
I'm about to get shot.
You had to hold that cough in as much as you could.
Dude, what a stupid time. Like, I
It
get
doesn't
there's
seem
a
real.
pandemic and there's not much we can really do, but literally, like, if you had a cough and you're like walking through like Walgreens, you're like, just like, I mean, face just bloodshot red, like you go around a corner and just
I'll tell you what.
hoping some dude doesn't whip out like a handgun and just pop you.
But speaking of popping people, you know who I think belongs on the death row?
Whoa.
This is genuinely what I believe in. I think the mass majority believe in me. If you drive in your car with all windows up and you still have your mask on in 2024, line up at the chambers.
Yep.
I
Assume
Sit in the chair.
Like,
That is that's insanity. Like,
it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like,
yeah, that's crazy to me. It's like,
Or the
who are you afraid of?
the famous video of like the people with the mask and they have a little mouth hole in the mask to eat with. It's like, do you even think about what you're doing? It's a mask with a mouth hole, so
It's like having a peeing section in a pool. Like, it just like doesn't fix anything.
oh
It's
man.
still gonna get to everyone eventually. This
Oh, it's
fixes
so
nothing.
stupid.
that's a hilarious
It's
comparison of
so
pea section and a bowl.
So stupid. But anyway, thank
Oh,
you guys for
Lord.
enjoying the last 2 minutes of absolutely pointless sport. Nothing to do with football, nothing to do with reality. For being
That's a
honest.
reward for those who stuck around
Yeah.
until the end of the episode.
Yeah,
right
if
there.
you stuck around to the end, you got to
You
enjoy
hear
it.
stuff
Have a
like
little
this.
tidbit. So, all right, round one in the books. Talked about it. Got our picks. We're going to see who moves into round two. Like I said, we got one game going on right now. It is in Indiana and Notre Dame.
It's a nail biter.
And- Say what?
It's a nail biter.
It is a nail biter.
Right. Yeah,
We are not sarcastic at all. And then we got a bunch of good games tomorrow. So you're going to enjoy your Saturday. It's going to be cold down here in the South. I imagine it's going to be cold about everywhere else, but it's especially going to be cold for all the Tennessee fans sitting in the shoe in all of their orange and white and checkered out. So we'll see what that's going to look like. But I hope you guys enjoy your Saturday. Hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Spend time with friends, family. Hope you get some good stuff. And we will have plenty of football to talk about next week. So
Absolutely.
appreciate you guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. Get some notifications when we post, and we'll see you guys next week.